Hi, and welcome to Talking About. I am John Griffith. I am so thrilled to be bringing some old friends to you, and it's actually the first time that I've seen them in years as well. Joining us by Zoom is a familiar face to longtime QPTV viewers, Anna Vitale-Gallo. And Vinny Gallo, you've made occasional appearances on air, but you weren't quite the staple, but I am thrilled beyond words to have you on the show. So welcome to both of you.
Well, it's great to be here.
I'm thrilled that you invited us to be on your show. It's great. Thank you.
So
yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been
How many years has it been? It's over 10.
It's got to be over 10, but it always seems to just fly right by. I mean, I've been kind of busy doing shows, and with everything going on in the world, pandemic-wise, yeah, I've been doing it from this little corner of my world, my dining room table, and you've been yeah, kind of semi off the air, at least as far as Queens is concerned. You haven't been on air for a while, except for the occasional rerun that pops up. What are some of the amazing and interesting things that you've been up to? Because I see you online all the time, and you're always so busy. So is it busy, but I don't know what I'm doing, or what are you working on?
Well, we've been doing lots of things up here. One of them was we got involved with radio. We had a radio program, a nice music radio program that I did for how many years?
6 years.
6 years. And that was a whole new experience, different from TV. And you didn't have to worry about what you look like.
It was a 2-hour weekly. It's a 2-hour weekly show of new age music, which is Anna's forte.
Okay.
And she would mix in a lot of her hypnotist philosophy and positive thinking philosophy, interspersed with the music. And I was the recording engineer, of course.
Of course.
He's always the engineer.
I'm always behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition to the weekly show, we also had what's called a board shift, where once a week we would each be on the air for a couple of hours doing the local weather and public service announcements, things like that, introducing the recorded segments. Actually it's an NPR station up in upstate New York.
Yeah, and it was quite a task for me because I am in outer space with time, and I had to learn to be very precise with seconds and minutes. And good thing he was with me because he's better at that.
Yeah, well, Jonathan, just like on, especially when you're doing live TV, it's seconds. You got to be precise. When you're going off the air. Same with radio. You don't want to clip the next show or have a recorded news segment. So yeah, it was a steep learning curve, but it was fun.
It was a good experience, actually.
We stopped when the pandemic hit. We kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we're on the downhill slide on that, and if you choose to, you can go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I don't know if I'll go back. I want to keep exploring different things. I've written a book actually.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, and the book is so still telling that the publisher told me I had to use a pen name, so I did. And it hasn't been.
It's not out yet, but it will be soon.
Yet, but it will be.
Okay.
And it's called Dimensions of Mind, and it's based on my experiences doing hypnotherapy and all the surprising things that would happen
with clients.
Yeah. So they got a little nervous. They were worried about revealing people's inner workings, and they said you better change your name because we don't want to be sued. So
it's going to be published under the name Vincent Gallo.
That's remarkable. Well, when it is, what does it do out?
Well, it's almost ready to go out, and probably be within this year.
We don't know yet, but she's done the final edit, and
Okay,
they have a cover and
We have a
everything.
cover, and it's called Dimensions of Mind.
Dimensions of
If that
Mind.
sounds familiar, you might remember Rod Serling's show because I watched that a lot, and I guess that's where it's sunk into my head that, there are so many dimensions of the human mind that, you start out with somebody coming in for smoking and it ends up being so intricate. And it was very interesting, the things I wrote about. But I changed everybody's name. And
well, that's the responsible thing to do, obviously.
Yeah. So that'll be coming out within this year, I think.
Okay. Is there maybe a little anecdote from the book that you can share? Because the internet is forever and this will be up. Not yet?
You mean a little story or?
Yes, just a little story.
An anecdote? Well, actually, I quoted Rod Serling, the creator of Dimensions of Mind. I don't have the book in front of me.
Okay,
but
that's fine.
I don't have it memorized.
Well, your mantra, one of your mantras on your show, Mindlight, that you produced and hosted for years was, everything in life begins with a thought. So it's all about the mind.
Absolutely.
How do you remember?
You remember. Thank you.
How could I forget? I saw so many episodes of the show. I mean, you were and are a very creative and informed person, and you always put out such positivity in what you do, and help people focus on building their own positivity, and that puts a lot of it puts a lot of good energy out in the world.
Thank you.
Which is something that this world definitely needs.
Yeah.
And how now we need it more than ever.
So, well, hopefully we're in recovery mode as a nation and as a world.
I'm sorry?
I hope that we're in recovery mode.
Oh, yes.
Because
I hope so too. I can't say I think we are, because I never know. You never know what's happening from one day to the next. You hear positive and you hear negative, and it really takes a lot of strength, inner strength, to just stay focused on your health, your well-being, and your life, and not get sucked into anything that's going to hurt you. So I think it's a very trying time, but I think people are learning how to cope, and COVID has been a good lesson for a lot of people. Learning how to be with yourself if you have to be, and learning how to restrict all the things you used to do, and being happy anyway.
If there's one thing we've spent a lot of time doing this all of last year since the pandemic hit, was attending to our own health.
Yes.
Such as making sure we get our daily exercise, because we do live in an area where we're able to walk outside and not encounter many people, if any, and making sure that we're eating right. And even in inclement weather, we make sure we do our steps down in the basement on our treadmill. So the best defense against catching the COVID is keeping your natural immunity at its peak condition as best you can.
And being very loving. When you eat anything, you have to think about, is this good for me? Is it going to make me healthier, or is it going to raise my sugar level? Or is it going to make me fat? Got to think about all those things.
Yes, and we were chatting a little before the show, and I said, well, it's a good thing right now that I'm only seeing from here up, because I have some COVID. I have some
pounds.
Yes, a couple of COVID pounds that I need to get off before I'm ready to be on full camera again. But I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
You look wonderful, so I'm sorry. But
well, you look good from the neck up.
And yeah, again, like you had mentioned, keeping busy through this past year, and even going forward, because we're still in the thick of it. And it's like I take my walks a few times a week. There's a nice waterfront area near where I am, and the sunsets are gorgeous. And it gets me out for at least, that 45 minutes that I take that walk. And, most of the time I'm by myself. So if I'm by myself, my mask is around my wrist. But if anyone is within 50 feet of me, I have time to get it on my face and keep walking and do the responsible thing.
I am curious, are there mosquitoes now?
There are always mosquitoes. I have a little garden in the back, so I'm watering that area. So I have mosquitoes by my garden. But the beauty of where I am is fresh vegetables. If I can grow them year round, I have fresh vegetables of my own growing year round.
Wow, good. That's good. We have a garden too, but only in the summer. And it's a short.
It's a short season, but
you have summer all year.
I have summer all year. For those watching, I'm in Miami right now. I have 3 little garden boxes out. I have tomato plants. I have one with herbs, and right now I have lettuce and peppers in another one. So the lettuce is coming, of course, even like it does in New York. It's not in sync with the tomatoes, so I get the lettuce first, and then I get the tomatoes. So something for the salad comes from the store, but that's okay. And I have my peppers, and I always have fresh herbs. So it's nice, and it keeps. It's one of those things that's physically healthy for the body. It's healthy for the mind because it's an activity, and a productive activity, not just sitting in front of the TV and watching Netflix or Prime or any other thing every day. I mean, I love doing those things, but you need to have a little off the couch time, which I discovered through the course of those pounds that I put on, which I'm now working on removing. And it's healthiness of mind and body that we really need to focus on, because this has been going on for over a year. And a lot of people are losing a bit of their positivity. And it's difficult, especially those of us who've experienced a good amount of loss through this last year. And loss is a part of life. It's a natural part of life, but it's been piled on pretty heavy for a lot of us in the last 12 months.
Yes. So, as of today, 500,000 people have passed away. That's a lot of people.
It is.
But hopefully it will change. Yeah.
It will change.
It will come up now. All the vaccines going. Have you had a vaccine?
My group is next down here.
We got a vaccine.
Yes.
I'm hopeful.
We got our first shot about a week.
Okay. My mom is due for her second shot this week. My aunt has had both. And me nothing yet. So, but it's interesting that I mean, I think we're going to get into this a little bit more later on, but just since January 20th, people's outlook on the vaccine has improved greatly. I wonder what changed on January 20th that could have amounted to a shift in attitude and a shift in focus in this country that made people's outlooks that much better.
I wonder. I wonder why I'm sleeping better.
I'm not exactly.
It's been quite a ride.
It has. It has. Sorry. It's just
important to stay positive.
It is. I mean, you
have to stay positive. You have to understand that not everybody thinks the way we do, or people have perceptions that are very different from what we have, and that's the difficult thing to overcome sometimes.
It is. I mean, a lot of,
especially when it's being fed by
yes,
negative ideas and things.
Negative ideas, negative media.
It's important to stay focused and stay positive, because the world isn't going to help you that way. You got to help yourself, and your world is what makes the difference. So
well, and there's a lot of healing to do within friends, within families, within communities. In your work as having been a certified hypnotist and hypnotherapist, how did you encourage healing amongst people, or through your practice? Is that irrelevant to kind of what you did?
What I usually do is go into someone's background, and it's really the way people think that is the most harmful thing that happens to them. It's their thinking. And if you can understand why a person thinks the way they do, just by asking them about their past and their history and their childhood, you can pretty much guide them to change that way of thinking. And that's what I did with hypnosis. I helped people change their perspectives. And that's what everybody needs to do when they're feeling negative. Because if you're feeling negative, you have to ask yourself why.
Take a sip. And yeah, I know when
what you said, Jonathan, about families is very true. And we've seen it in friends' families, and we've seen it in our own families, how people have been, separating apart, not just physically, but ideologically, and to the point where best friends are not talking to each other anymore. And cousins may not be talking to each other. We know a lot of instances like that, and it's very unfortunate, and I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know how to solve the problem either, because I understand when you're rooted in your own belief system, I guess, we're in a way guilty as well. We swear our belief system is the correct one, and I can imagine somebody else believing theirs is. Where do you meet? There seems to be very little middle ground in which to begin healing from. So that's the challenge, especially over the next year or two. That's going to happen in this country. I hope it happens.
I hope so, because it is. If we're gonna recover and unify as much as we can. I mean, there's always going to be different points of view, but it's become so polarized that it's difficult. And like you said, we're guilty of that as well, because we have our views and we think we're right. But do we hold our breath until we turn blue and keel over? And how do you win? How do you win when you're hurting yourself as well? And
I'm going to jump right in. I was thinking about the insurrection, and I was thinking about those people who stormed, the Capitol, or some stormed, some marched, some walked, some actually climbed walls. But I was thinking, if I truly thought that my candidate had the election stolen from him, I wonder how far I would go, in terms of, storming the Capitol, if I truly felt that the election was being stolen from me. So I put more blame on the people who kind of convinced them of that. I'm going to call it what it is, a lie. And so I put squarely the blame on everybody who was pushing that falsehood. And they saw the results. So I'm not excusing the people who did what they did, but more culpable, I think, are the people who created the lie and promoted it.
Well, to really get into that, you have to roll back at least a full year to when the seeds were planted for that lie. I think through even going back 5 years ago, when somebody didn't win a particular area of a primary. Oh, yeah, it's like, Ted Cruz cheated. He could have only won that area, that state, because he cheated. And that's been the MO, and people don't necessarily see that seed has been planted through the last few years, and it's projection. It's like the person who was screaming, they cheated, is pointing the finger at somebody else, in my opinion, saying they did what that person did, and that's how it's been.
So I think what's really frightening to me and really needs to be corrected, and I don't know how, is the separation of the media feed that we get. The one media company says one thing, another media company says another, and now there are third and fourth little places that are popping up now, new media feeds that are even making things worse. It's very confusing for people, for all people. I mean, whatever persuasion you are, you don't know who to believe sometimes. And that's where the insecurity comes in. And then you get somebody giving you the answer, and you happen to watch them, and that's what happens.
Well, if it's the answer that you like,
answer
that fits in with your belief system, then then you're going to march to that drum.
Yeah.
And you want to know something. And what I learned in hypnosis was that if you repeat anything over and over and over, even if it's not true, people will believe it. And you can if you were a smoker or knew anything about those old commercials, you can remember little phrases like, but name some cigarette company.
As I just
Lucky Strike means fine
tobacco, right? Yeah,
it's toasted.
That repeat something over and over and over, and people believe it, and that's a hypnotic technique, by the way. You repeat, whenever I would work with someone, that's part of it. You repeat things over and over, and they take home a tape sometimes, or a recording, and it's repeated over and over, and it works. So that's what's going on today. But people are very vulnerable, and they're looking for answers, and whoever sounds right, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they're right or if they're wrong, or if that sounds good to you, you're paying attention to it. But you have to remember that inside of you, there's a truth that you can feel and you can tune into. And that's what we need to do, especially now.
Yes, and it's incredibly difficult because, you know, say the ultimate truth, the true truth, and the truth, as you said, that you're spoon-fed from the left, center, and right, and fringe news media. Yeah, it gets harder and harder to decipher, you know, what is true, because as you said, the bold lies get repeated over and over. And I think there are media outlets, they say, well, the phrase "people are saying," it's one of the greatest fact avoiders in current talking heads infotainment news media. People are saying, and people could be me in the elevator.
Or I'm hearing.
Yeah. People are saying, I'm hearing it.
I'm hearing.
In fact, it's totally sourceless, and it's not even. It doesn't even qualify as an anonymous source. It's just, yeah, it's something that you pulled out of your backside that you're trying to get your point of view on air. I have no illusions that my opinion doesn't come across in this program. Your opinion is coming across in this program, and I try to rephrase a lot of what I say as in my opinion. Yeah.
You know what irks me is when people draw false equivalence between these the cable news stations. Now they're all biased. Well, you know, let's start with that. But when they say one station is just as bad as another, there's a difference between being biased with, you can have a set of facts, and the way you can interpret them, you can have a biased interpretation of those facts. But when you have a set of falsehoods and you're creating a bias based on falsehoods, that's a totally different ballgame. And they're not equal in any sense. So just because they're biased does not mean that one is just as bad as the other. So,
well, I think people need to develop a sense of truth within what is true for you. What is true for you, and look into it. Don't just think it's true and not bother to do a little research, because it's very dangerous. What's happening is to accept somebody's statements as truth. It's just it's not a good idea.
Right, well, schools.
If we look at the past, if you look at the history of the world, you can see, the past rulers that have brought destruction into this world, and it was because people believed everything they said. So got to learn how to determine what's truth and what is being said for the benefit of the speaker. So
I think in a large part, a lot of the education system in certain states are not developing critical thinking skills in the generation that they're teaching. So, rather than have a student question them to seek a truth, they're being told, listen to what I tell you and accept it no matter what, whether it's true or not. Occasionally the student might be correct and the teacher might be wrong. And who knows?
That's true.
And it's just something that really, this is where we are, and this is where it leads. Everything in the past has led us to today. It's like little political, seemingly insignificant things from 20, 30, 40 years ago are snowballing and coming to fruition today. A lot of what we were just talking about with the different, the news media with different angles and different perspectives on the political spectrum. A lot of that snowballs from the elimination of the fairness doctrine under Reagan. So this is how we ended up with, you know, the different perspectives of Fox News versus MSNBC, and somewhere in the middle-ish CNN, and the other extreme ones that are popping up. And I think if we can bring some of the elements that have been lost back into the picture, then things will inch toward better. And it's going to be inch by inch. It's not going to be all at once.
But somewhere inside of you, there is an awareness of what is real and what isn't real. And you have to tap into that. And even though whatever you're hearing sounds very convincing, it's difficult, but you have to do that because there's too much going on.
You have to be willing to do the digging, the research. You got to dig. You got to do the drilling down, and do your own fact checking if you can't find fact checkers. And even I know you said we would be talking about Biden's first month in office.
Yeah, we kind of skipped past that.
And I did a little digging myself. I never thought he was the perfect person or the perfect president, but instantly from day one, I liked what he was doing. But I just did a little digging anyway to see, and there are a lot of fact checkers showing that not a lot, but some of what he said is not quite true. But not so much that he's been lying. I think it's more that he has a propensity to, let's say, exaggerate things, or maybe especially when dealing with statistics, might not get the numbers correct.
Like a politician.
I was surprised to find that. Yeah, and but mostly exaggerations.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't call them out and out lies. I think his intentions are good. I think he's an honest person. He's transparent. He's compassionate. And that from day one was enough for me to just give him the benefit of the doubt, And so after 1 month, I'm, more than happy with what he's doing, as opposed to what he's not doing or could be doing.
Right.
So
there we are.
So like I said before, we're sleeping a lot better, and we're actually paying less attention to the news nowadays because we don't have to wake up. Okay, what did he do today?
I just want to take 1 second.
People feel that way.
I just want to take 1 second to remind the viewers you're watching Talking About. I'm John Griffith, and I am joined by Anna Vitale-Gallo and Vincent Gallo, and we're talking current events, politics, and the whole crap show that's gone on in the last year or two, and with an eye of hope toward the future. So for those who didn't see the first half of the show, we're talking about how refreshing a change the last month or so have been, even though there's politics being what they are, there's not necessarily total truth, but we have more truth and transparency than we've had in quite a few years. Is that a good summation?
Exactly. That's a good summation, yeah.
You can say that.
But it took a lot for us to get to this point. I mean, we kind of touched on like the whole election day fiasco. The certain people were primed repeatedly with the misinformation. The lie was repeated over and over. The seeds of the lie were repeated over and over, and it came to a head through like election day in and of itself. Because of the pandemic, localities were changing far in advance. We're changing regulations regarding mail-in voting to allow it to be extended for the health of the people. And these were local administrations on both sides of the aisle. But then certain ones, when it didn't look like it was going in their direction, they said, "Hey, wait a minute." And then as election day and election week played out, they started panicking. But the rules that they put into place, even though the votes that ultimately swung the election came in before election day, they were read after election day. So the bigger lie was started that all these things happened in the middle of the night when in fact they didn't.
Actually, and like you said, the seeds were sown way before the election. Actually, I looked at a timeline earlier tonight, and way back on June 9th, Trump said he refuses to say he will accept the results of the election. He was saying then the only way he could lose would be if the election is rigged.
Mm-hmm.
Now we voted by mail. Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania legislature passed a law that allowed everybody to vote by mail if they wanted to. You don't even need a reason.
Right.
Like formerly you did if you were absentee or if you couldn't make it to the polls. But we thought it was a smart thing to do with COVID. And
it was, you were right.
And I think, yeah. So, and those are the votes that came in. They were cast earlier, like you said, but they came in later, and counted later. And that's why, it looked like he was winning earlier in the evening until the mail-in ballots started to be counted.
Mm-hmm.
And
my political friends on Facebook were saying, as this was all playing out, be patient. This is in the friends that are in Biden's corner. Be patient. This is the way it's supposed to be going. Just give it time. Give the numbers time to come in. And true enough, that's how it played out. In obviously now in Biden's favor, legitimately. To anybody who has any doubts that's watching, legitimately in Biden's favor. Hi, Renee. And that's
hi, Renee.
Hey.
Renee's still there?
Yeah, I don't know if he's in on this call right now, but we love Renee, and I miss my in-person political debates with him.
I've had some myself with him.
But
love you, Renee. You did a great job shooting our wedding video.
Did we get married?
Somewhere along the way. But anyway, so it was an edgy couple of weeks. Immediately following election day.
Well, it was absolutely, yeah. Well, it was an edgy several weeks before election day too, when they started messing around with the post office and cutting hours, removing drop boxes, things like that. And we are fortunate. We live like 5 minutes from the courthouse. We didn't even mail our ballots. I walked them over in person. I wasn't even going to trust the post office to deliver them on time. But, fortunately, the post office, in the end, I think they came through, and all the mail-in ballots were counted. So
they had to be shamed into doing so.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately, is the way of the world these days. A lot of people don't do the right thing unless they're shamed into doing it. But the post office is a mess, and that's a topic for a whole other show because it's still going on because the joy is still in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're finding that even regular mail, it's taken like 4 times as long to reach its destination.
It's never been like that ever.
Exactly.
And I think because the last administration let a lot of people go.
Well,
Is that so?
No, I don't know about that, but I assume, probably most likely, a lot of people, shorter shifts, or they're out, or maybe they're working double shifts because people are out because of COVID.
Or maybe the COVID, yeah.
But
COVID was a major factor. Again, the seeds of this go back to Congress quite a few years ago, which forced the post office to prepay the entire retirement of employees. I can't remember how many years of medical expenses that they have to put aside for every employee once they're hired. So it became cheaper for the post office to pay overtime than it did for them to hire somebody new. So, and then once the pandemic hit and there are fewer people to do overtime, and then Detroit comes in and says, hey, wait a minute, you can't have any overtime. The physical people slow down, and then they started destroying vital equipment, mail sorters and locking up mailboxes. Of course, it's going to slow things down. I got that. The last Christmas card that I received the third week in January, and it was postmarked December 8th.
Wow.
So whatever he did to screw it up worked. And hopefully that can get fixed in the future. But again, that's a whole other topic, one that I'm not particularly well versed in at the moment. Give me 48 hours to do a deep dive on that, and I'll have the information. But it just goes back to what we were talking about in the first half hour that we were talking, is verifying your information that you get from all these different sources. So much misinformation was thrown out over the last few years, and in general still, but specifically during that period, so much misinformation was thrown out. So many little websites that look like news sites that are popped up just to confuse people, and people put up this half-truth based article, and then it gets quoted by a more legitimate news source, and then that gets quoted by a more legitimate news source, and then all of a sudden it's being presented as truth by a source that you think is reliable, and then if you trace it back, it's not. And I found a lot of, I can't tell you how many times in the last couple of years that I've looked to see who registered the domain for a news site that I've never heard of before, and a lot of times it comes to this rinky-dink little company in a tiny little country somewhere, and okay, that's not real, but I had to put in an hour of work to find out that what I was reading wasn't real. And not everybody has the drive to do that or the time. Here's to retirement.
I'm glad you did it. That's a responsible thing to do. Yeah. Well, nowadays everything is one of my emails is being used by I don't know who, but I tried to correct that. I have two emails: Mindlight1 at AOL and Mindlight at AOL. And Mindlight at AOL has been taken over by somebody selling insurance, selling burial sites, and I contacted AOL and they said, don't worry about it. So they're just trying to get information from you.
They're fishing.
They're fishing for you, and they want you to tag in. So it's crazy. It's I don't know why, they're coming up with new ways to cheat people. Not good.
I think a lot of it is people spend so much time and energy trying to figure out how to cheat people and how to avoid work. It's like when I was a supervisor, there was always one person who spent so much time and effort in figuring out ways to avoid work that if he had just done 5 minutes worth of work, he would have had all the free time to use that he was avoiding. So it's just human nature, I suppose. But and then getting back to it, the orange one was feeding his base all these lies and riling up all these extremist groups, and it's like you have QAnon, the the Proud Boys, the three percenters, which yeah, I was shocked to find out how many active military and law enforcement personnel are involved in these groups, which some of which have been designated in other countries as hate groups. Pardon?
It's shocking. It
Yes.
really is to see military people involved. You know, they fought for their country. How could they do that? So again, it's the use of phrases constantly over and over again. Make America great again. Make America great again. America's always been great until recently. So it's a repetition of phrases and repetition of ideology over and over. It becomes real to them. So, you know, it's a difficult situation because if somebody's looking for a scapegoat, you know, they can find it. So,
and then and then
you have to be alert and aware and say to yourself, is this truth? And before you accept it, you can't just accept what people are saying anymore.
But then you have somebody who's in a position of authority, in a position of power, even though they don't have the greatest relationship in their entire life with the truth, but they're in this position of authority and sowing these seeds of doubt and riling up these groups, and then say, hey, this was taken from me. This is legitimately mine. Come here on this date, and we're gonna get together, and we're gonna show them that that we're right. And then it turns into
make America great again.
Right, by
make America great again.
By attempting a coup and staging a terrorist attack on the Capitol.
It raises the question of free speech, which was the big defense. And I heard somebody say on one of the talk shows, it really struck a chord in me. The First Amendment guarantees you free speech, not free reach. It doesn't guarantee you the right to broadcast on social media, dangerous lies that could cause, a lot of harm and a lot of death. You want to go out on a street corner and talk all you want, fine, but, not on social media or on these websites like, I think like Alex Jones got shut down from his website. His platform.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of consternation over Trump losing his Twitter account. But, I always say you're not allowed to, free speech ends when what you say endangers someone else. That's my opinion. And, so there's limits to it. It has to be responsible.
The same voices that are crying that a bakery should be able to deny service to somebody for who they love because it's a private business are decrying Facebook and Twitter for taking away the platform of somebody for what they're doing and saying. And the rules for private business are suddenly different because it's their voice that's being silenced and their view or opinion or life is being squished. And it's a huge double standard.
Well, that's the hypocrisy. That's the blatant hypocrisy of that side. It's just like pro-lifers. Pro-lifers really get me, and they're all for saving the baby's life, the fetus's life. But once the baby's born, mother and child are on their own. They don't get any assistance. And say anybody who's pro-life, they should be willing to kick in support for the baby once it's born.
Mm-hmm.
if the, you know, especially if the mother is going to be a single parent. So there.
I agree, and I think I've seen a lot of people, you know, who have similar views about certain things. It's like the whole social security system. I know I've had conversations with a neighbor, you know, about social security and, you know, what it's all about and what's this and that. And then you have a condo meeting or a meeting with the association because, you know, the association fee is going up. Well, they just fixed the pool, so it's going up because some of the money went there. But I don't use the pool. Yeah, it's the same principle on a smaller scale. Yeah, it's just the nature of people. But we have to pull it back together, and we have to find ways to recover. And yeah, the impeachment fiasco kind of played out in front of us a few weeks ago. I think the case was laid out. The case was there again. You know, 1 year later, again. Yeah, same trial, different crime. Yeah, the most bipartisan vote to convict ever, even though it wasn't at the threshold of conviction, and it's all a matter of public record. So personally, I don't consider it a waste of time. It's all in the public record now. So
I don't either.
There's no denying the history.
And you got to hand it to Mitch McConnell. As much as I dislike him, he's a strategic genius for the way he engineers, you know, the postponement of the trial until after the inauguration, and then even after they vote on the constitutionality of the trial, he still has the gall to stand up there at the end to say that he was voting for acquittal because of it wasn't constitutional, because he was no longer president, even though he basically said he was guilty and he should be prosecuted, you know, after the fact under the other means available, like the Department of Justice.
It should go to a criminal court. Yeah, or a civil court. And, you know, a lot of it is playing out in at least the tax evasion stuff, and the stuff New York is playing that out. And I personally don't think he's going to be mentally fit. He's going to be less mentally fit to run in 3 years than he is now. So,
but that won't stop people from voting for him. He will get votes.
and he's going to have sway over the midterms, which we're going to be finding out over the next. I'm not sure when CPAC is, but yeah, the big let's thump a Bible and be conservative conference that's happening very soon. So I think it's next week as of this taping, but. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out and see what his influence actually is, and how people react to it. But I think I want to turn back to just getting us toward healing and staying vigilant and being active in the political community. It's like the one good thing about the horrific politically horrific last 4 years is that people on both sides have become much more politically aware, and the people are participating more. Obviously, if people on both sides weren't participating more, Biden wouldn't have won by 7 million votes. So yes, the orange one might have gotten more votes than any Republican in history, but Biden got the most votes of anyone in history, which is why he's in office now. So so that's something.
And we have to and we have a positive outlook.
Yes, we need a positive outlook.
I have a very positive outlook, and with right off the bat, rejoining the Paris Climate Accords, rejoining the World Health Organization, stopping drilling in the Alaskan Wildlife Refuge,
Yes.
and stopping the XL pipeline,
Yes.
and a whole bunch of great things that criticized for doing all these by executive order, but he was really undoing all the things that Trump did by executive order.
Right. He was
to
undoing other
undo
executive orders.
Obama's policy. Yeah, undoing Obama's policies the same way. So,
and I think, yeah,
but I think it's nice to hear about what the president is doing, but to be honest, on a gut level, all of us have to be involved with what's going on, especially with our environment. We have to become more aware of what we're buying and throwing away, and let's stop killing our planet. I mean, we are literally, destroying the planet, and we have to, just like we have to rebuild our country and our electoral system and our democracy, we have to take care of our planet and its animals. We have to stop using animals like they have no feelings, like they have no right to life, like they have no business having anything to say about anything. Did you know that when you buy eggs, you're promoting the outright murder of male chicks because they can't be used? If you've ever seen this, if you've ever seen it for yourself, you would know how horrible it is. They take these newborn male chicks and they put them right into a grinder just because they can't get eggs out of them. We've got to stop doing that. You have to stop using animals that way and abusing. They have a right to life too. I mean, I don't want to, switch the program over, but this is
it's something that you're very passionate about.
And
I understand that. You've always been very passionate.
I mean, we need to care. We need to care because if we don't care, we're headed down the tube.
And it ties in, we didn't do the segue, but factory farming is very big against the environment. It's what when people say, well, why are you vegan? We say, well, it's a no-brainer for health, for the animals, and for the environment, because it's with all the pollution that's emitted from factory farms, it's a big contributor to the CO2 levels in the atmosphere. So,
and it may even be where the COVID viruses.
Well, that's another thing.
I mean, a lot of people, a lot of sources say that the consumption of animal products.
Most, if not all, of these viruses have come from animals.
Oh, absolutely.
You look back. Swine flu, bird flu. Mad cow disease.
Exactly.
SARS, MERS, COVID.
It all came from animal consumption of animals because they carry viruses.
Well, in addition to addition to consumption, it's also encroachment on their territory. We need wetlands, we need forests, we need natural wildlife.
Right.
For any tree that's cut down, we need to plant two, and keep the earth strong and strengthen the earth. And we, like you said, we need to be responsible in what we choose to put into our bodies, how all of that is sourced, and how we treat the planet as a whole, and all the life forms on it. Because it's not just about us; it's about the next generation. It's about the children, the grandchildren, and the generations beyond that. We might have a rover on Mars, but Mars isn't habitable at this point in time, so we have no place to go. So we have to take care of what we have.
we have to absolutely take care. We better take care or we're finished.
They say there's no planet B.
Yeah, there's no planet B.
Where can people find out more about you? I know you're very active online. Do you still have your website up and running?
I have a website, Mindlight, MINDLIGHT .net, and you can find the book I wrote there, and there's other little books I've written too. But there's some hypnotic programs that a lot of people take advantage of.
Okay, so there's a wealth of information there, and people can find out anything that they're looking for there. We're just about out of time on the air, so I want to really thank you, Anna Vitale-Gallo, Vincent Gallo. Thank you for taking this hour, this time with me. I'm John Griffith. You've been watching Talking About. Thank you so much. We will see you next time.